Good afternoon everyone. I'm back again with another video this week, following on from my previous videos on shamanic practice. If you've not seen my other videos on this subject yet, then please do go and have a look at those, because often there'll be little bits mentioned in each one. There's a reference to a previous video, so if you want context, then go check out the other videos. Today I want to talk a little bit about being a shamanic practitioner in the modern world. It's not really something I touched on my previous videos, but it's important to talk about this particular element of shamanic practice, because as with all things, there are positives and there are negatives. There's a light and dark side to absolutely everything, and shamanic practice is no different. So as a shamanic practitioner now, I've been studying shamanism and practicing in a shamanic fashion for nearly 10 years now. I keep going to say 8, but it's because I'm kind of stuck stuck in time, you could say. But yeah, nearly 10 years now. And the one overwhelmingly common thing that I've noticed, not just in my own practice but in other shamanic practitioners that I've seen, is just how overwhelming it can be. I'm sure shamanic practitioners through the ages have had the same problem to varying degrees, but I think in the modern world, given how vast our population is, how highly built up our world is now, and how much interaction there is both in the real world and now in the virtual world, it's difficult to escape from the noise of everyday life. And I think that it's important for anyone on any spiritual path to be able to find solitude, actual proper solitude, somewhere quiet, somewhere secluded, where an individual can go and just be with their own thoughts or with no thoughts at all. And it's increasingly difficult to find that. I mean, I'm lucky where I am, but there are people who live in central London. They go out to a local park, and you're lucky if you get a single copse of trees without a tramp living in it. It is difficult for some people, and I think the constant barrage of information and communication that we are having to deal with on a daily basis, hello there, it's draining, mentally, emotionally and spiritually. Now, as a shamanic practitioner, what you'll find is that a majority of shamanic practitioners are empathic, inherently empathic. They pick up on absolutely everything. It's kind of in the job description, really. Shamanic healer, the whole point is that you feel what others feel so that you can understand it and treat it. Which, in the practical sense is brilliant. Being able to be in proximity to somebody and be able to feel what ails them. But when you're in a crowded space with hundreds of people, or even thousands of people, and you're picking up on a little bit of every single person that you pass, all you're getting is pain, both physical and emotional, psychological instability, anxiety, depression, stress, amongst other things. Now, I work in a hospital, as I mentioned in a previous video, and it's difficult for me on my path because I'm constantly around sick people. And I mean, even just in the one department where I work, it's people with like gastrointestinal problems. And so much of that is down to lifestyle. People who drink to excess, or people who eat the wrong foods, people who suffer from, gluten intolerance or lactose intolerance, and they continue to eat those things that don't agree with them. Now, any shamanic practitioner will tell you that, to try to eat as cleanly as possible is the best way to live, because, we're not evolved to eat processed food. We're just not. And then we wonder why we end up with so many health conditions when we're eating packaged rubbish all the time. And I see that day by day. But beyond that, beyond the poor quality food and the alcoholism, there are other causes. People with, stomach ulcers, even though they've never drank in their lives and they eat healthily. Stomach ulcers caused by stress. People with hiatus hernias from overexertion because they're working themselves to death. The way that we live is so out of touch with what should be a rudimentary understanding, a fundamental understanding of our own needs. And we seem to live disconnected from ourselves. We don't seem to understand what's good for us and what we actually need. And when it's presented to us, where we're presented with something that is good for us, we typically reject it. I don't want that. That's different. That's a lifestyle change that I'm not prepared to take up. And it causes all kinds of problems in us. And then as the shaman, shaman, I mean in my case Sederman, we're picking up on that all the time. I don't know if I've ever experienced as much stomach pain as I have since I started working here. But I know that it's all in here because I'm picking it up empathically from other people, and my brain's interpreting it as physical pain, even though there's absolutely nothing there for me to be experiencing that. The emotional turmoil of people who've been in pain for weeks, months, and with this whole corona thing going on, the delays that's caused to people's investigations and treatments. Some people have been suffering for nearly 2 years now, and that physical suffering leads to emotional suffering as well. So we're picking up on that. We're picking up on other people's stress, not just the stress of our own everyday lives. And then beyond that as well, I'm working in a place where people die every single day. And so the mediumship side of shamanic practice comes into it. The whole idea of being in constant communion with spirits, not just the spirits of the trees and the animals of the world, as I mentioned in a previous video, but also the spirits of deceased humans, departed souls. People who have stuck around rather than passing into their next incarnation, or being assimilated into the world around them and becoming part of nature. They stick around in their kind of semi-human form, and they're unhappy. They've got stuff that they need dealt with. They need consolation, they need healing. So you're sitting there sitting there trying to work, and suddenly I've got someone standing at my shoulder, tapping me on the shoulder, saying, "Come on, you're the only person around here who can even know that I'm here. Nobody else will even acknowledge me. So who else is going to help?" So, that constant stream of information You know, it's not enough to have television and radio and social media and everything else that we're constantly having thrown at us every single day, but shamanic practitioners have all of that extra sensory information thrown at them as well. So it's difficult. It's stressful. And it can manifest as physical illness. It often does manifest as physical illness. And the whole point of being shamanic practitioners is that we're constantly having to do self-work as well as helping other people. Because we're constantly absorbing the malignancy of the world around us. And we have to regularly purge ourselves of that, as well as helping others. And if we can't heal ourselves, then how can we expect to heal others? So it's one of the most important things in any shamanic practitioner's life to understand what's happening to them, to recognise the symptoms of spirit sickness within themselves so that they can purge it as soon as it starts. Because if you let that malignancy take root, it grows and it spreads and it takes over. It pollutes everything. It pollutes your thoughts, it pollutes your actions, and it pollutes your practice. This is the primary challenge of a shamanic practitioner in the modern world. As I say, you know, medicine men and women over the ages probably experienced this as well, albeit to much smaller degrees, because the population was smaller. We didn't have all of the petty stresses of everyday life. It was survival. Back then, it was life or death. But so long as you lived in accordance with the law of nature and the law of, well, your own nature, and you understood where you were in the world and how to get by. And death was always something at the back of the mind, but it was never something that you were constantly faced with. Illness would have been fairly common, but it would have been everyday illnesses that we all experience. Colds and flus, infections. This mental health epidemic that we're having, it's not like anything that we've really ever experienced as a society, as a civilization, as a species. And it's a new challenge for shamanic practitioners, for medicine men and women around the world, because it's a new illness that we're having to deal with. And it's so contagious. You know, mental illness is so contagious, because if you're trying to help one person, it's easy to get caught up and to end up with your own mental instabilities. And one of the other challenges for modern healers is just the sheer lack of belief that people have. I mean, there was a time when belief in spirit was a given. If someone was told, you have spirit sickness, your soul is sick because of something that's happened in your life and we need to fix it, they go, oh, okay, let's do it. There was an inherent belief in the ability of spirits to act in the physical world and affect physical matter. You know, this whole idea of spirit invasion, which I'll go into in a future video. Someone said, you've got a parasitic spirit we need to get rid of. Fair enough, okay, yeah, do what you got to do. Nowadays, if you tell someone you've got a parasitic spirit, they go, having a laugh. No such thing as spirits. Everything's just matter and energy. Well, it's true, spirits are matter and energy as well. More energy than matter. But the amount of people that seem to be drawn to people like us, drawn to Sederman, or medicine men and women, to spiritual healers. They want to go to Reiki therapists, People are drawn to it because their soul knows that that's what they need. But their brain tells them different. Oh yeah, go and try it. Yeah, sure. Might be fun. Nice little anecdote to use at a party or something. Oh, I went to this spirit healer once. But they don't actually believe in what it is they're actually going to get. And belief is such a huge part of this. You have to believe in what you're doing. Because belief is what puts your will behind the actions. Otherwise it's just empty waving of sticks and rattles and empty drumming, empty chanting. If there's no intention and there's no belief and there's no passion behind it, how is it going to work? Not just for the practitioner, but also for the patient. If the patient doesn't believe it, they're going to reject the treatment. Just like if you try and give someone a blood transfusion and it's the wrong type. It doesn't agree with them, the body rejects it. If the patient is incompatible with the treatment, they will reject the treatment and it won't work. But that only reinforces in their mind that it's a load of hogwash. And so the other epidemic that we're facing is this empirical, materialistic lack of belief in anything other than what the eyes can see. It's hard. But at the same time, being in this modern, highly developed, highly communicative civilization, it has its advantages. We now have an immense resource of information. The internet, Our ancestors didn't have that. But what they did have was their spirit guides. Now if you have trouble connecting with your spirit guides and you feel a bit lost, then why not do a Google search? It's like we've taken what the Greeks and the Egyptians used to call the Akashic record. We've taken that spiritual repository of knowledge, and we've made it something physical, something tangible, something that absolutely everybody can access if they have the right tools. Well, that's what the Akashic record always was, but it's taken a different form anyway with the internet. But it makes things easier. It also makes it easier for us to connect with one another. It makes it easier for us to reach out to people and for other people to reach out to us. I've had people come to me who I've never met in my life, would never have met. They've reached out to me online and said, do you know about X, Y, and Z? Can you help with A, B, and C? Even if it's just advice. Oh, I feel like I've got a harmful spirit following me around. What do I do? Okay, well, you're on the other side of the country, so it's not feasible for me to get to you in the short term. But here's some advice on how to cope with it. Something as simple as that makes life a lot easier in some respects. So it's a double-edged sword. There's light and dark to everything. We've got a little warbler over there showing off. So, anyway, there's not much else I can carry on with talking about this, because just thinking about it all is exhausting in and of itself. But if you are out there, you're doing your practice, you're trying to live your life, you're trying to juggle everything, you're trying to deal with your work, your home, your family, and then you're getting other people's baggage on top of your own. If you feel like you're on your own, if you feel like it's too much, if you feel like the weight is just crushing you to death, if you feel as though you've got the entire world resting on you, you're not the only one. We're all like that. Some more than others. But you know, reach out. Get out there, get online. Find online communities. Go out to local events and meet people. Talk about your practice, talk about your life, talk about juggling it all, and you know, the difficulties that you're facing. Because that's the first step to doing the work within yourself, acknowledging the problem. And once you acknowledge the problem, you can then start to make a step-by-step plan on how to deal with it. But you know, if you're struggling, then yeah, you're not on your own. This is the path that we walk. This is the life that we live. And really, would we have it any other way? So I'm going to leave it there. I've got to get back to the daily grind. But until next time, which again should hopefully be next week, bid you all a very fond farewell, a very good day or night wherever you are in the world. And may the spirits walk with you always. Bye for now.